generally what I do is we have 6 ANCs and 22 organizations in the ward. So what I try to do twice a year is to get around to every organization and every ANC, give you an update on what's happening at the council and then what's happening in the neighborhood, but more importantly, to take questions and comments from the audience, which are actually very helpful to us back in the office. On the council, just quickly, not surprising, the biggest issue that we are dealing with right now is the budget of the District of Columbia. The financial situation in the district, like it is in our surrounding jurisdictions and nationwide, is very difficult. The good news is the district's finances, because of very, very good management over the last 10 years, are in much better shape than either Maryland, Virginia, or most other cities in the country. As we go into the 2011 budget, which will be submitted to the council on April 1st by the mayor, we really face two dilemmas. Dilemma number one is because of the decline in commercial property taxes, and it's a decline in commercial property taxes as a result of the decline in the assessments on the office buildings downtown. Because of that decline, we are experiencing really flat revenue growth. We take money from 3 different areas: sales tax, property tax, and income tax. Sales tax is relatively flat, but with small growth. Income tax about the same. Residential property tax, because of the various caps and freezes we have, remains pretty constant. Commercial property taxes, which we have been really running our city on for many years because of the enormous growth downtown, have now come down. To give you an example, CoStar, a corporation from Maryland, just bought a building downtown at 14th and I Street. For $48 million, it was assessed at $70 million. So it gives you an idea of what the decline in values are. Because of that flat revenue growth, we are going to have major issues in balancing our budget because of the increase in fixed costs in the government. Now in 2010, the year we're in right now, we have about $200 million of overspending, largely in the school system and in human services. But we've worked with the mayor and have the ability to balance that. As we go into the new fiscal year, that's where our challenge lies, because if we do nothing, if the city has no new programs, no new spending in any category, our budget grows about $450 million a year. Now why is that? It's salary increases that are union contracts, it's increases to contributions to pensions, it's rent increases, utility increases, all the things that we deal with as individuals. The city has those kind of fixed costs. In the past, it was really no problem because of the enormous revenue growth we had. Or in the last 2 to 3 years, the decisions were made by the executive and the council to try and not cut back on services and rather balance the budget using other methods. One example is our savings account. 3 years ago, we had saved, by congressional mandate and other, $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion. Today we have $950 million in our savings account. We have spent that savings account down. We have borrowed from our reserve fund the maximum we can borrow and now have to pay it back. We have used all of the methods that we have at our disposal to fill the gap, hoping that the economy would get better and that revenues would start to increase again. And that has not happened, and frankly, it's probably not going to happen for the next 2 or 3 years. So we are now faced with $450 million in fixed increased costs, no revenue growth, and have to figure out how to pay for that. So that is the challenge we have. Just very quickly, where do we spend our money? It's very easy. We spend it in 3 areas. 3 areas make up 75% of our spending: human services, education, and public safety. All the rest, and when you include debt service in that, it takes you up over 80%. All the rest of the things we pay for in the city are in that other 20%. And so consequently, when you are looking at balancing your budget with no ability to take your savings, very limited ability to raise taxes, which are all the highest in the region, you're really going to have to look at cuts in that area. So the best thing I can say is wish us luck. It's going to be quite a challenge. There's going to be a lot of people upset and angry about what has to be done. But if you saw the Washington Post today, on the right-hand column, on the front page, both Maryland and Virginia have just gone through that exercise, and they have made substantial cuts in education and human services. Virginia, I have nothing ever good to say about Virginia, but I will say this one thing. They will close the state before they will raise taxes. And that's exactly what they did. They did not raise one tax in the state and managed to close a $400 billion gap. And so that's what we're going to face as we go forward with the budget. The other things going on at the council as we wrap up kind of our legislative stuff are the crime bill. I told Kerry I would talk quickly about that. I introduced a crime bill, another crime bill. Councilmember Mendelson has agreed to have a hearing on it in April, to the latter part of April, and I would ask all of you, if you can't come and testify, to at least send testimony and let your voices be heard. If you remember last year, I had a crime bill that dealt with gang-related violence. It did not pass the council, and many of my colleagues said, well, we didn't hear from anybody about this, and it wasn't a good bill. Okay, we changed our direction. The bill I introduced has a lot of provisions in it that deal with loitering, which is a big problem in all of our neighborhoods. So we really need to hear your voice down there, because many of my colleagues get cold feet when it comes to this kind of stuff and don't pass it. So keep that on your calendar as well. As far as the neighborhood is concerned, we have more development projects that are not happening than any other neighborhood. And it's largely as a result of the economy. When the economy does change, things will begin to change. And I'll just go through them really quick. You can start at the old convention center site. Probably we're looking a year off before anything happens down there. We'll have the tennis tournament and all of that again. But the developer, Hines, is a good company, stable, ready to go, but can't get the financing. And it's $200 or $300 million of borrowing that they're going to need to get that project underway. The hotel, Convention Center Hotel. We are still in negotiations with JBG and Marriott to try and solve the lawsuit that JBG filed against the city on the hotel. We were successful in a dismissal of one of the cases before one of the judges. There's another one before another judge coming up this month. If we're successful in that, it may give us the room we need to go forward. We are ready to go on the hotel. We have the financing on the hotel. We are just stuck in a legal predicament right now. Going further north, the O Street Market, we got good news today. They were confirmed for their HUD grant, and the financing is mostly there. They're still negotiating on the hotel. I think of all the projects, that probably has the best possibility of getting started. That's the one with the big new giant. Kelsey Gardens seems stuck because of financing. Parcel 42 up on Rhode Island Avenue seems stuck because of the financing. And the Radio 1 project, Radio 1 pulled out of the project. The United Negro College Fund, though, has agreed to pick up the ball on that. We just had a hearing on that, and hopefully that deal will be able to be put together and that project can go forward. So as you see, we have a whole slew of things in the neighborhood that when the time comes, we will be able to get them moving forward. In the meantime, we are where actually most of the rest of the city is and the rest of the country is. There is such a dearth of money that banks are willing to loan that city after city across the country are still in the same predicament we are of waiting for things to happen. So that gives you a brief synopsis of what's happening in the neighborhood and in the council. And so what I'd like to do, I can open up the floor to any questions and see what's on your mind.